Good afternoon, everyone. I'm John Boonstra. I'm the pastor here at Bethel United Church of Christ, and it's a privilege to welcome you here to Bethel Congregational UCC.
It's so wonderful to be here in this beautiful place of worship. We came through a lot of rain, and just before we missed the getting off, we saw a rainbow over here. You know, sort of signaling, just keep going, you've got a wonderful place to come to. This particular award you'll be learning more about, but just to say that it is named after Mother Joseph of the Sacred Heart, who was the foundress of the Sisters of Providence in the West. She came here in 1856 from Montreal, just shortly after our community was founded in Montreal. And one of her sayings was, "God has given me a flame," which is the theme of our time together. Well, now we come to the time when we present the award. And this year, there was unanimous consent on the part of our team that the person who merits this award this year stands above all the rest, and that's Reverend Dr. David Duncan. He has been a wonderful public witness, and he has changed hearts and minds of lawmakers and others on Capitol Hill over the crippling debt that burdens some of the most impoverished countries in the world. So we are very, very grateful that he has been such a witness. This deep sense of solidarity with those who suffer and whose plight is forgotten in the corridors of power and sometimes in our own midst is such an example to us. So, for so many reasons, too numerous to mention, we as the Provincial and Council of the Sisters of Providence, on behalf of all of the Sisters of Providence and those who minister with us, are so pleased to be able to present the Mother Joseph Award to Dr. Reverend David Duncan. So would you please come forward, and I would ask the Provincial Council to join us. God has given me a flame. And that's what we see. We see this flame so much in David. And it says, Sisters of Providence, Mother Joseph Award 2010, Reverend Dr. David Duncan. And we hope that you can put this someplace where you can be reminded that you are dearly loved. You are dearly loved by the Sisters of Providence and by so many others whose lives you have touched, and people whose lives you have made a great difference even though they have never met you. So again, I thank you.
Thank
God
you.
bless you.
I'm absolutely flabbergasted. I really don't have words to express what has transpired here. I guess only thank you. Thank you very much. I can't imagine having read in this past week something about Sister Joseph's life that my own life could somehow mirror that. No matter how unorthodox, the same values or similar values that would be expressed in her lifetime by a Free Church Protestant. I feel very humbled that you really do express this wonderful sense that she carried with her. And thank you very much.
I'd always wondered how we as a community could recognize him. And there's a lot of different awards that are part of Providence and part of our community. And David would never seek any of them. But when Ty brought the Mother Joseph Award nomination, we had the idea that this would be really appropriate for David, that he would be able to receive that recognition from this group of women who have so dedicated their lives to the same kind of service.
From my experiences with him, I wouldn't necessarily talk about his work, but I would comment on his presence. And I will say that regardless of where he's at, he embodies this presence of Mother Joseph, and that he's walking in her footsteps in all that he does. But he truly embodies our core values of the Sisters of Providence, and you can see that. And in some ways, there's kind of this aura about him. So whether he's in our hospital, he's in one of the ministries, or out in the community doing work, there's kind of an aura feeling about him and around him. And truly, I have to say, I am kind of humbled when I'm around him, especially knowing what he has done in his life and what he continues to do.
Some of the nominees, all of them were fantastic in their own way. Many of them were awe-inspiring. When we read David's nomination, what we saw was a man who interacted with everybody. Whatever it took to get the job done, David was there to do it. And so he's a very broad-based person who has a deep, deep heart that cares a lot.
Well, when you have lived as long as I have, you've seen a lot of stuff and have an opportunity to do a lot more than a younger person does. And it's, when I retired, I didn't retire from social service work and things like that. In fact, I went around and saw what I could do in this community.
So there's a teacher I know who says that a Christian is someone who's met one. And I think by that we mean that to understand these virtues, we can't just look to a textbook definition. We have to see how they're embodied in a human life. And that's what David shows to me.
So I was very surprised and, of course, humbled by this nomination. And I don't really know if I understand how an order of sisters could select, number one, a man, and number two, a Protestant, and number three, a person who really hasn't, in my view, deserved this.
Dave is a person who's committed to standing up for what he thinks is right, not what he thinks will be successful necessarily, but he keeps chipping away at it. He keeps chipping away at it, and eventually he is successful.
I think to look around and see what's happening in the world, and then to feel yourself called to do something about it. And that's a very simple thing. And I've had the great luxury in my life of being able to have the time to do these things when I see a need. A lot of people don't. And I don't begrudge them at all. They have other priorities. A lot of younger people have families and jobs that take their time. But when you're retired, well, you've got all the time in the world, and it's just, what do I do tomorrow?
To see what David does and other people with whom we collaborate, it's a sign of hope for the future. And as we look at and interact with people who are not Sisters of Providence, we know that the hope for the future, for the poor, the marginalized, the hope that is the flame of Christ continues on, whether we're here or not, which is the important thing.